There were many technical problems that nobody seemed able to solve for me, which arose, like suddenly panicking with an awareness of the audience of what do I do if I have to balance, suddenly I'm hot and in a hurry and it's dark, and how do I incorporate all these conditioning forces into my work? The first thing I learned was how little we are trained to observe ourselves, our behavior. We can always tell somebody how we feel about something, but what we did when we felt a certain way, we're unable to describe. When you are spaceless, when you don't know where you are, what surrounds you, where you came from, and where you are heading, your body will tense, you will get very self-conscious, and start to arrange yourselves. If you know where you're going, where you came from, what surrounds you, and how that influences your behavior, you get free. Then all the wonderful work, psychological work you do on character and on the movement of the scene can take place, otherwise it can't.
I was sort of flailing, gilding, what do you call those horses that just come out of the
foals or something?
Yeah, something. And not really knowing what to do.
Right.
And I just got a structure there and inspiration and sort of affirmation that maybe I could do this. And it was in New York City, which was just the perfect place to be a young man or woman wanting to be an actor. There's inspiration everywhere. And there are also little pockets of creativity. I think that LA, if I had started in Los Angeles, I think it would have been harder for me, just because I think you have to seek out community, whereas in New York, it's all around you. And that was the structure that I use today.
You also went to Broadway.
Yeah, it was a do or die moment for me, actually. And I remember thinking, if this doesn't work, maybe I'm not right for this business, I thought that there are moments in life when you think, like, you know what, it kind of does matter if this fails, or you fail in it. And it was hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through by far. And I remember thinking, if I can get through this, it may be as hard, but it's impossible for it to be harder. And it's true. And I've had a lot of hard times since in more jobs, you know, when you're like, wow, the pressure's so intense. But I have such a foundation from 3 days of reading.
I was going to say, eight shows a week, right?
Not even that. Actually, it was the rehearsal process. Oh, okay. Not to do. Once we got on stage, it flew, and thank God. And I thought, oh, this feels right. But it was and I was hard on myself, but it was just, man, it was tough.
I do so much homework, and then ideally, of course, you forget it all when you get on in front of the camera or on the stage. You have done all this preparation so that you can be really open. And it's interesting how so many actors out here, especially in film, they don't like to rehearse and they don't like to do homework because they feel like it's going to take away their spontaneity. And it's so interesting because for me, the more rehearsal I do, the more homework I have done, the freer I am, the more spontaneous I can be when the cameras are rolling or when I'm on stage.
How did you put it? Going method? Is that what you said?
That's what
going method. No,
again, I'm not a good actor, so I don't know the terms.
No, and it's an interesting way to put it. Going method is an interesting way to put it because you kind of do go there. But it's really just a way to stay incredibly focused and committed and concentrated. It's a way to kind of shut everything else out and to prioritize what's important. That's really another way to describe going method. You don't have to sit around and really believe that you're this other person.
Yeah.
But it does help to kind of put a wall up around and to raise the importance of the process. And I found that in my career, that's been the best way for me to work.
Yeah.
And obviously something worked about the part and the role and the process because, at the end of the day, what's important is, am I able to contribute to the story? Do people believe in the character? Does the character touch people? And, I would hope the answer would be yes.
I still haven't found a way of really understanding myself what happened in the last couple of years. I'm just amazed by the whole thing. And already it's beginning to take on that strangeness, which is not uncommon to me, where you feel really that somebody else did that. That whole thing takes on a mystique, which is not really representative to me of the work itself, because it seems so clear to me that if I and most of my colleagues really do the same thing in different ways, maybe, but we go to these great lengths to try and create a world for ourselves. And within that world, we try and create an understanding of the lives that we're expressing in that world. And for me, that's where the pleasure of the work is. So what would seem crazier to me is to jump in and out of that world, or in and out of the experience of that character, because that's really where I want to be. I guess finally there is some kind of mystery, because it either works or it doesn't work, and you've no idea what makes the difference. But it's just the joy of that work, really.
I like that my job always requires me to prepare for something different for each time. But ultimately, you know, the way you break down a script is kind of the same. You know, what does your character want in this scene? What effect is he trying to have on the person that he's talking to when he says that line? And what is his overall kind of objective? And if you have a fairly clear idea, I think, of what those three things are, well, that seems to work for me anyway. I mean, there are always the scenes that you worry about the most, the ones with, you know, huge kind of emotional shifts and things like that, and you know, they can be very hard, but those are the moments that you just have to trust the director and trust the other actors you're working with, and give of yourself and be as emotionally open and available as you can. The challenging scenes are the fun ones as well. I mean, that's the thing, is, you know, that it's important to say that, you know, the more challenging a scene is, in a way, the more fun it is, because the more of my job I get to do. You know, I'm now working with people who haven't worked on nearly as much as I have worked on, but, you know, have worked in a completely different way and have been through drama school, or have worked with, you know, improvisation in a way that I haven't normally. So there's always, you know, I'm kind of always looking around to try and learn from everyone. If I could give one piece of advice, it would be that. Just, you know, learn as much as you can about how you, the type of actor you want to be, the type of person you want to be on set, because, you know, you can learn as much about how you don't want to be as how you do want to be from watching actors sometimes. And I was very lucky to have an amazing group of people around me to watch and learn from growing up. So I think, yeah, just sort of be a sponge and take in as much information as you can.
Pretending is not just play. Pretending is imagined possibility. Pretending or acting is a very valuable life skill, and we all do it all the time. We don't want to be caught doing it, but nevertheless, it's part of the adaptation of our species. We change who we are to fit the exigencies of our time, and not just strategically or to our own advantage, sometimes sympathetically, without our even knowing it, for the betterment of the whole group. Empathy is at the heart of the actor's art. I am overweeningly proud of the work that I, believe me, did not do on my own. I can assure you that awards have very little bearing on my own personal happiness, my own sense of well-being and purpose in the world. That comes from studying the world feelingly, with empathy in my work. It comes from staying alert and alive and involved in the lives of the people that I love and the people in the wider world who need my help. Being a celebrity has taught me to hide, but being an actor has opened my soul.
I mean, I remember when I first read the script, I put it down and I had a lump in my throat. It really affected me. For me, it was, and my character, it was basically figuring out why he had this inability to love and to express. And so my investigation into him was basically what I came out of it, out of the investigation with, was the fact that he was, you know, battling himself, battling his genetic structure, battling the generations before him, his father and his father's father, and their opinions and their fears, ultimately, were so deeply embedded into the soul of this man that it restricted him from ever expressing. And so a big part of my job was to physicalize
it
these battles. The information was incredibly thorough. I think one of the things he focused in on me is, obviously you can see me sitting here when I'm nervous, my hands are like going everywhere, and it's very hard for me to stay still. And I'm even like that kind of in the rehearsal process. He saw that in me, and he would just keep on repeating, stillness, stillness, stillness. And so I was like, okay, well, this is obviously my weakness, on this job. But then, the stillness actually ended up being one of the easiest sides of this job. Once I got out, into the wilderness and amongst these majestic mountainsides and rivers and trees, and you truly become a product of your environment. And so the stillness just kind of happened. It truly is thorough, and he gives us a lot of information. We go away, digest it, process it, and kind of create our own characters. And also in that process was the accent. It was a big part of it. It was finding his voice, finding the correct regional accent, and then kind of characterizing the accent. His inabilities to express, I wanted to kind of, I wanted him to be a clenched fist, because any form of expression had to be painful. In my mouth, I wanted to be a clenched fist as well, and therefore any words that escaped from within had to kind of fight their way out.
And the door into this emotional shift is empathy. As Jung said, emotion is the chief source of becoming conscious. There can be no transforming of likeness into dark, of apathy into movement without emotion. Or as Leonard Cohen says, pay attention to the cracks, because that's where the light gets in.
About really what happens to someone when they've suffered. You guys have talked a lot about trauma and about drugs, opiate. We're talking about the way people cope. Like all the conversation we're having about drugs is people trying to cope with the hardship of life, because everybody's life is hard. There's not one person in this theater that hasn't suffered. That is part of life. It's not dissimilar, again, to the same link that every person in this room has. What Laurie Strode stands for is not giving up. Laurie Strode has never given up. And that is my legacy, that because Laurie Strode and Jamie coexist in such a web of, it's like a Gordian knot, you'll never untangle. Where's Jamie, where's Laurie? But my legacy, which could have been many, many things, if we're lucky enough to have a legacy in a public way, is survival and never giving up and always fighting back against anything oppressive. That's, it's pretty cool. That's